Happy New Year. Welcome to the first edition of the 2026 Five-Star Zone. I'm your host, Rico Beard, and we got a lot of things to talk about, both football and college hoops in the Big Ten. But let's start with football because the national semifinal game figures two Big Ten schools, meaning somebody's going to be representing the Big Ten in the national title game, whether it's Indiana, who looks to be that juggernaut team, or it's Oregon. And little did we ever think that Oregon would be considered the underdog. But going into this game, Oregon is the underdog. Indiana coming off they got the Heisman Trophy winner and Fernando Mendoza. And Indiana did something that really no other team with a bye has done since they expanded the college football playoff. They won their first game. It's weird to say, but Indiana is 1-7, and that game wasn't even close. So they moved on, and they get a date with Oregon in a rematch game going all the way back to October 11th, where Indiana, to me, that was the game that kind of proved what Indiana was. That was the game that showed you that Indiana wasn't to be messed around with. They went from being that cute little story to, wait a minute, maybe Kirk Cignetti and the Hoosiers are really good, and maybe we need to stop making fun of them. You go to Allison Stadium, a place where not many teams go to win, and they won handily. They won 30-20 in that game, and they kind of put themselves on the map of, you know what, you could talk about the Alabamas and the Ohio States and all of that, but you better put some respect on our name because we're not going anywhere. And we're going to be here to stay. And going into this rematch game, now normally it's difficult to beat a team a second time. Except I think that this won't be one of those times. I think that Indiana will get this job done. And there's a couple of reasons why. Biggest keys to the game, there's two keys. The run game. Indiana's going to have Roman Hemby and Black is going to be their two running backs. And then those two have feasted off of defenses, and they're a great 1-2 punch. And just when you're like, oh, okay, well, you're so worried about, Mendoza. And don't forget, Mendoza has wheels as well. So if you get to focusing on Hemby and Black, Mendoza will gas you up the middle and pick up 20 yards and score a touchdown. He's just that fleet of foot, and he's mobile. So it's not something that you want to forget about, and I'm sure Oregon is going to try to stop them. As far as Oregon goes, Oregon's looking at Noah Whittingham and Jordan Davis. And Jordan Davis and their two running backs. Now, they do have injuries, and then they had Jay Harris into the transfer portal. Look, I'll get to the portal stuff a little bit later. You know what? Let me touch upon a little bit right now. How in the world do you go into the transfer portal and your team is playing for a national title? Isn't that why people supposedly want to go to different schools and better schools? Because you want the natty, you want the ring? I'll say this, that's gone. Now players are out for cash money. Players are out to try to just get paid. If you win a ring, great. If I'm another team, why would I want any player who bails on the national semifinal? What are you looking for, son? If this isn't good enough for you, what exactly are you looking for? And we all know you're just trying to get paid. You're just trying to make money. You're not a good teammate. You're just a mercenary, and you're not even trying to hide it. That's the bad part about it. That's going to be the breakdown of college sports, is just that attitude right there. As I said it before. Somebody has to be an adult when it comes to the NCAA. And if the only excuse is, well, I don't want to get sued. If we get sued, we're going to lose. Then just shut everything down. If you're afraid of being sued, because if you don't, this sport will go the way of boxing. This sport will go away to men's tennis, where there used to be two sports that people always loved. Not anymore. That's where college sports, it's about pride, and fans still love their teams, but you realize that the players don't love their teams. When you realize that, heck, I mean, like Michigan State hired Max Buller. He played at Michigan State. He won a Big Ten title at Michigan State. He was a linebacker coach at Notre Dame, and they brought him back to be on the staff with Pat Fitzgerald. And part of, I think, his job is going to be giving a TED Talk when it comes to Michigan week of why you need to hate the Wolverines. Why some of these kids have no idea. Look, Fitzgerald's picking up a lot of kids in the portal, but They don't know who. Wait, we're supposed to hate Michigan. Why again? Coach, can you explain to me what happened in the tunnel incident? Can you explain to me what happened when they stuck the spear? Can you explain to me the little brother comment where it used to be you grew up that way and you knew and it was like, man, I can't wait. Now, can't wait for you until you get your next paycheck. Speaking of that, on a quick side note, Indiana also picks up, speaking of Michigan State and Indiana, is Nick Marsh, star wide receiver from Michigan State, has now transferred to Indiana. And Nick, look, Indiana paid Nick handsomely to go there. And I'm not mad at Nick, and I don't think any Spartan fan should be mad at Nick. If you really look at it, Indiana's a juggernaut right now. And for those who say, well, once Mendoza leaves, they're going to be any good. Well, Cignetti has flipped two different teams and got them to the playoffs. I still think Indiana's going to be one of the best teams in the nation, and they're showing it right now, the way they're hitting the portal. But I digress. Let's get back to this game. The other key to this game is Dante Moore. Look, we all know who Fernando Mendoza is. He won the Heisman Trophy. He's the quarterback for Indiana. But Dante Moore may be the second best quarterback in college football. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of pros who say Dante should just stay at Oregon for one more year rather than going and getting drafted by the New York Jets, where I can't say that I'm mad at him. I can't say that I don't disagree with him, because do you really want to be a Jet? Yeah, that's the place where careers go to die. And they're not going to be any good anytime soon. Heck, I don't even see Aaron Glenn lasting another year. And that's not saying Aaron Glenn's not a good coach. It's just, that's just a bad organization. I mean, heck, when they're drafting people based on their Madden ratings, come on, man. Come on, get serious. But back to Dante Moore. I think if you're Oregon, you have to protect Dante Moore. Dante, I believe, was sacked 11 times this year. 6 of the sacks that came in that game against Indiana. Indiana's going to bring the heat with the defense. That's what nobody talks about. They swarm to the ball. They may be that no-name defense, but my God, they can hit, they can cover, and they will come after the quarterback. And they went after Dante Moore in that game, getting 6 sacks. If you're Oregon, you can't allow that to happen. You got to go out there. You have to protect him if you want to be representing the Big Ten in the national title game. And if you're Indiana, it's got to be business as usual. You go out there and you get the job done, and you bring the pressure to Dante Moore. Oregon's going to be limited in the backfield. They're down to 3 backs. Jay Harris went into the portal, but he's going to play. They have 3 backs. You're going to have to protect him, and you're going to have to be diversified with the offense and not just drop him back in the pocket. The key for Oregon is don't fall behind. Don't make Dante have to play from behind and drop back and throw the ball 30 times. If he has to throw 30 times, that's not a good recipe for Oregon. And for Indiana, it's just, as I said, business as usual. Not only are they winning, man, they're destroying people. Their games aren't even close. So that's what I look at when I look at this Hoosier team. Is they're doing exactly what they have to do, and they look like the best team in college football. All right. Let's talk about the Devin Williams saga. Devin Williams, I like Devin Williams. You've heard me talk about him. He was quarterback at UW, at Washington, and dual threat quarterback. Well, he goes into the portal, and immediately going into the portal, he becomes the number 1 portal QB. Here's the problem. Bear with me, hang in there, because he had just signed a deal at Washington for $4 million. He's coming back. 2 days later, he is like, I'm in the portal. As a matter of fact, his teammates found out at the funeral they had for the Washington Husky goalie who died of cancer, and his teammates go on social media and they're like, wait, what is going on here? What do you mean you're leaving? Looks like LSU jumped in there and said, hey, we'll give you $6 million if you get out of your deal and come to LSU. All while Sam Leavitt is sitting there with Lane Kiffin. See, I don't want Lane Kiffin to go totally unabsorbed. Lane Kiffin is the bane of college football right now. What he's doing at Ole Miss, holding the coaches hostage, that's criminal. LSU doesn't play a game until September. Those coaches should be allowed to finish at Ole Miss and then join you at LSU. you don't have to make them pick their allegiance, okay? That's wrong because they built up that Ole Miss program. They bought into those players because here's the thing. When people get angry at what Devin Williams is doing, I want you to look at what Ole Miss coaches are doing. I want you to look at what Lane Kiffin is doing and tell me how that's any different. But because it's Devin Williams, like, well, he's a player and he should want to stay. Man, bull crap. Look at what the adults are doing. What do you think he's learning this from? He's learning it from the adults who don't know what they're doing. They're chasing the dollar. So why can't that young man chase the dollar? Oh, by the way, still not done. As I said, Sam Levitt is on the campus, and it looks like they offered him $5 million, and he has to find out, wait a minute. I'm on my recruiting visit, and you're recruiting over me already, and you're not even going to pay me $6 million. You're going to pay him $6 million. You're going to offer me $5 million. I hope no one goes there. Now, Washington comes back and says, hey, because you signed that deal, you should have read your contract because we're saying you can't go into the portal. We're not going to allow that. And we're going to sue you to have to play for us. Now, that never works out ever. That is, how could I put it? That's not what you want to do. That's not what you really want to do. You don't want to have to force somebody to be with you. It's like being in a relationship and you're forcing the person to marry you or to go on a trip with you and they don't want to be there. It never ends well. Now, new saga, new twist to this is Devin Williams' agent dropped him. Why? Well, funny thing. Jedd Fisch is also in that same camp. So the agent represented Jedd Fisch and he also represented Devin Williams. So the agent now feels conflicted. So he has to basically say, I'm washing my hands. I have to drop him as a client. He's a fine young man. Hopefully somebody will represent him. This thing is fugazi. This thing is why you need a governing body in the NCAA. This thing is why you need an adult in the room. Why? Because if not, you're going to get more and more of these things. How do you force a kid to play for you? And then if you're Devin Williams, how do you go back to Washington and get the respect of your locker room? You walked out the door. It happens. But then again, I saw Chuck Brantley come back to Michigan State, and then that blew my mind because I didn't even think that was real. But if you're Devin Williams, I would caution you of hitching your wagon to Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is just dirty. And when you got other coaches just blasting Lane Kiffin, man, there's a reason why, man. This guy is just everything that's wrong. He is all about him. He constantly falls up, and he may be the greatest coach that everybody wants who's won absolutely nothing. Look at his resume. Look at his resume. Look at his record. He's won nothing, but people keep wanting him because they think he's going to be the next. After some point, you stop being the next and you just are. And that's just who he is. I would avoid him if I'm Devin. I thought you had a good place in Washington. I try to repair that deal, maybe work out something where Washington throws you a couple of extra bucks and you guys come out in unity singing Kumbaya and get this thing done. But I look at this and this is just it's not a good look. It's not a good look for college football. It's not a good look for anybody. And yeah, you probably shouldn't have the same agent as your coach. That could be problematic as well. But, on the flip side, here's the thing. If Jedd Fisch had went to Michigan, maybe Devin says, I want to go to Michigan with you. Now, they didn't, but if he goes and follows Jedd Fisch, is anybody all outraged and, oh, my God, he did this? No, because it happens all the time. Nobody likes it when the rabbit has the gun. Nobody likes it when the players seem like they're taking advantage of the system. You always want the system to win, and that's what happens. I mean, plain and simple. And just like that, in the life comes at you fast category, I got to update this podcast because while I was originally taping it, Devin Williams looks like he was leaving Washington. Well, funny thing happens. Looks like him and his coach, Jedd Fisch, have come to some type of an agreement, and Devin Williams will not be leaving Washington. Both he and Jedd Fisch have come out with statements saying that he is going to be returning back to be the quarterback of the Washington Huskies. It's going to be a very interesting thing. Jedd Fisch says, I support him, and we will work together to begin the process of repairing relationships and retaining the trust of the Husky community. Basically, a lot of Husky writers and fans just lit into this kid. We don't need him. He sucks. Oh, wait, we just made up. He's coming back. it's going to be an awkward year in Washington. I don't know how well this works. This is something I'm definitely going to keep an eye on. But yeah, just like that, all of a sudden, Devin Williams, he's headed back to the University of Washington. I don't know what type of damages he's done within the locker room. I don't know how he'll perceive by his team and by the fans. He's going to have to try to win them back. Here's the beauty of it, Devin. Win games and people forgive you. Win games and nobody remembers this little fiasco. Win games and you will have Husky Nation and Purple Nation back on your side. You lose games and yeah, you might as well just go ahead and opt out for the rest of the season. We'll keep tabs on this throughout the year. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update as we were taping this that Devin Williams is now headed back to the University of Washington. All right, I'm done. I'll see you guys next time. You've been watching the 5-Star Zone. Also, before I switch over to hoops, I will say this. I do think the college football playoff got everything right. And I'm going to say this. Look, I'm not a big fan of the 12-team playoff. I'm not. And they'll expand this thing. But here's what happened. We didn't get the playoff that everybody thought we were going to get. We didn't get that. What happened was this. You got a playoff where you got teams that on paper were the best teams. Texas Tech paid $7-8 million for that defensive line, and they got blanked by Oregon 23-0. Alabama was a blue blood, and it's Bama. Indiana beat the brakes off of them 38-3. Ole Miss and Georgia played a great game, but let's face it, guys, if I would have told you before the game you got to pick the winner of that game, 99% of you would have said, well, it's going to be Georgia. Nah, it's Ole Miss. That's the thing that I think people aren't seeing is they're actually playing the games on the field. And you look at Miami. Miami comes in there and Miami pulls off the upset. And we were talking about Miami not even supposed to being in the college football playoffs. Miami's playing in the semifinal game. I like the fact that we're actually deciding the games on the field. I like the fact that, you know what? This is what is supposed to be done. It's not based on rankings. It's not based on feelings. It's not based on computers. It's not based on polls. It's not based on writers. It's based on who plays in the game. And yeah, I don't know if this is going to be a one-off year or not. They can make some tweaks. The bye week is helping teams. Like I said earlier, Indiana's the only team that's won a game coming off a bye week. You can't sit out for 30 days and expect to hit the ground running. That's just being problematic. I don't know. And this may go to, you know what, let's just go ahead and say it and go to 16 teams. And that way everybody plays an opening round game at home. But other than that, I like the fact that teams are settling this stuff on the field. I like the fact that it's not based upon the polling and the rankings and the idiots in Texas who come up into, well, here's the best teams that we feel. Well, how about this? Nobody predicted this Final Four. Nobody. If you did, you're a rich person. If you put these were the Final Four teams in Vegas, if you put $100 down on this, you're probably a millionaire because I don't think anybody saw this coming. Look, no Alabama, no Georgia, no Ohio State. Yeah, Miami beat Ohio State. You thought that, Ohio State's going to be there defending. Nope. Now, the Big Ten can still win a third championship, Michigan, Ohio State, and I think Indiana's the best team. But it's just, I like the fact that it's being settled on the field. I like the fact that this is what we're doing, and we're letting it happen between the lines and not just based on polls. All right. Let's switch over to hoops. And in hoops, well, there's the Michigan Wolverines, and then there's everybody else in the Big Ten. In the Big Ten, Michigan is just hammering teams. Now, it was funny because I kept telling people, you got to be careful because I don't think Michigan's going to run the table. Now, Michigan's going to run the table. And it was funny. I was telling Jeff Rieger, I was like, Bryce Jordan is a tough place to play. Michigan goes into Bryce Jordan. And the Nittany Lions had the chance to win the game on the final shot. They would have won the game 75-74. They missed a three-pointer. It was actually a horrible play. Like, it looked like the point guard just kind of forgot where he was, forgot the time, and just jacked up a shot. Michigan wins 74-72. And in that game, what I saw was this. You're not going to run the table in the Big Ten. Bryce Jordan, you know what makes Bryce Jordan so difficult? It's empty. There's nobody there. So it's hard for players to really get up for that game because you're hearing shoes squeak. It feels like you're at an open practice where there's just a handful of people. If you ever watch the Penn State game and they shoot the foul shots, you see nothing but empty seats. I've yet to see that place filled to the brim. And I think that's the difficulty of playing at Bryce Jordan Center is that you feel like you're in practice, so you don't have the same intensity. You don't have that same thing. Look, Michigan State barely won at Bryce Jordan earlier this year. They won by 4. So I'm not sitting here like, oh, well, Michigan, they should have won by more. Nah, man, I get it. It's difficult to do. Now, as far as Michigan goes, though, I do look at the use of Yaxel, and I think that he's probably going to be the Big Ten Player of the Year. But Yaxel's injured right now. I would not have played him in that game. I think that I do think that Dusty May and the Wolverines got a little seduced by beating teams by 30, and you're like, oh, we want to keep this thing going. But man, you don't lose the battle. I mean, don't win the battle to lose the war. This team goes nowhere without Yaxel out on the court. I would have sat him in that game. I think you had enough talent to win. And even if you lost, okay, no big deal. You got a loss. But you're not the same team without him. And you saw that he was out there and they weren't the same. He didn't have that same explosiveness in that game. If you're Dusty May, look, the Michigan schedule picks up in like the end of January. They got the game against Michigan State on Friday night at the Breslin Center. Then they got a game on the road, I think in D.C. with Duke, and then they follow that up with, I think, Purdue. They also have a game at Illinois. So if you're them, what you need to do is really look towards the end of the season and value that time. And now, look, you have enough talent on this team that you could be the Big Ten, as I stated. It's Ohio. I mean, it's Michigan, and then after Michigan, you got probably Michigan State is in there. Michigan State and Purdue, and then after that, and no, I mean, you know what? Let me go backtrack. Michigan State, Purdue, and Nebraska. I'm going to give Nebraska their props. That's a good, gritty team. Nebraska drags you down to play their type of style. Where you go in there and you underestimate them, you're thinking like, well, we could beat Nebraska. It kind of sounds like how everybody talked about Indiana football. But before you know it, look, Nebraska's already beaten Michigan State at the Pinnacle Center. So those 3 teams, and then after that, there's a big chunk of other teams. But if I'm Michigan, if I'm Dusty May, I'm making sure that I keep my star player healthy. And maybe if I got to sit him for a week and let him heal up, that's what I am going to do. As far as Michigan State goes, look, we all saw if you were there, you saw the funny incident that happened at USC. MSU rolls USC 80-51, and I think Paul Davis stole the show. Paul had a little too much to drink, got into it with the refs. I was sitting right behind it. I've never seen a ref just stop and throw somebody out of the game. That wasn't like a Harlem Globetrotter type of game where it was a plan. Like, he was angry, he was upset. Paul said some things he should not have said. And then Paul came out the next day. He was a man. He called Izzo before Izzo could call him. He apologized to the ref. He apologized personally. He apologized to the ref publicly. He apologized to the fans, to the teams, to everything. Because, look, it's not where he was before. Paul was feeling really good, as you saw, drinking the Twisted Teas all night long. Yeah, I saw him in the concourse a few times, and yeah, let me just say, Paul was feeling good. As far as the Spartan team goes, I get it that Izzo is really focused on getting Cohen Carr some shots and letting him shoot the 3. But I'm going to say this, man. When nobody is standing close to you when you're shooting 3s, when they're about 15 feet away, the other team knows you're not going to hit them. They're waiting for the rebound. And when Cohen's out there just standing there at the 3-point line, who's ever guarding him is just clogging up the lane. That game against USC was like 5-2 USC winning. And then Cohen comes out and Scott goes in, the freshman. Offense opens up because they had to respect his shot. Cohen can dunk the ball, but until Cohen hits a consistent shot, it's almost like back in the day with Ben Wallace on the old school Pistons where, don't really guard him. If he scores 8 points on us, fine. Now, Cohen finished the game. He was a leading scorer. But if you look at it, it took a while for him to finally get his shot going. So that's just me. I don't know. I would tinker, maybe. And look, there's precedent. Maybe until he gets that shot going, you just bring him in at the 16-minute mark and just don't start him, but bring him in at the first time out, a la what you used to do with, Bryn Forbes, Travis Trice, back in the day for you old heads, what you did with Mo Pete. Like, these Izzo's brought like good players off the bench. Heck, Jace was coming off the bench last year before he became a starter and really got his shot in his own. So maybe just so you don't start games off sluggish, so that you have some freedom of movement, and then you could bring him in there. Just a thought, just a suggestion. I know, Tom, don't coach my team. It's just a suggestion. That's all I got to say. Finally, I want to wrap this up with the transfer portal going on and Pat Fitzgerald. Michigan State had over, I think, 35 people enter the portal. I will give Pat Fitzgerald credit for this. I saw him at the game. He had a group of kids at that USC game. And, man, he was working it. Guys, when I tell you it was night and day from what Jonathan Smith was doing, and that's not to be disparaging Jonathan Smith, but, man, sometimes you just can see goodness and you can see greatness. Pat Fitzgerald was working the room. He had these guys like, man, you could see, man, he's about to get a bunch of these guys to commit. Now, I don't know what they're going to do. We got to wait until the season starts. But so far, like by the time I'm recording this, and he's had 22 commitments. 15 have gone public. There's still, 7 that we don't know. But, heck, by the time this gets to you, he may have had more. He's replenishing the cupboards. He is bringing in players, and he's doing it the way that I would do it. Go and get me players from a group of 5 school. Go get me some offensive linemen. They got 4 offensive linemen, including Hank Fraley's kid, the offensive line coach for the Detroit Lions. Give me a group of 5 guys who really just want a chance to step up. I'm more of I need to see the body of work guy rather than, you were the backup at Tennessee or you're the backup at Alabama. I want guys who went out there and actually played and was first or second team, whatever conference they were in. I'll give you the opportunity to step up in weight class and see what you can do. And bringing in the offensive linemen, I would also now focus on bringing in the defensive linemen. I've said for the longest, for Michigan State, 4 offensive linemen, 4 defensive linemen. You got the money that was donated to the school by Greg Williams. Use that because you can do it. You've seen other schools get this thing done. Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn to go out there and get this thing done and actually get to winning, because look, I'm looking at the different types of people that he's bringing in. He's flipping this roster. He's got some O-line people. Now he's got to get some D-line. He's got some secondary. He's got some linebackers. And he got Chuck Brantley to come back. Charles Brantley. Yeah, you remember him in 2021. He had the game-sealing catch against the University of Michigan. He was often injured. He goes to Miami. Doesn't really do anything for the Hurricanes. Found out grass is not always greener. Comes back to Michigan State. I really would like to know what that phone call was all about. Hey, I'm Chuck Brantley. Who? Yeah, I used to play there. Go back and watch that Michigan game. The K-9 game, that was me that had the Michael Jordan one-handed catch type of thing. But he's back. So, look, we have to wait and see what the schedule breaks out. We have to wait and see how these players fit in. But he's replacing the missing piece of people that left to go to the portal. He is hitting the ground running. He's a salesman. He's out there. He's pushing the program. This may end up being a really good hire by Jay Batt. We have to wait to see. We do. I'm not crowning him right now. Please don't take it that way. But what I am saying is what I saw in one game, as far as what I saw from Jonathan Smith, 2 different vibes, man. And you can see he ain't messing around. I've asked some of the transfers, and they said, hey, they're saying, come here, help me build something, help me jumpstart this thing. He's not promising you're going to start, but he's going to give you an opportunity to start. Now that's on the kid once they get there. I think that's the fairest thing that you can say. So, look, hopefully Pat Fitzgerald can keep this thing going. Oh, and by the way, little known anomaly that happens this year, Michigan State this season will face 3 former MSU quarterbacks who started a game. Noah Kim, Eastern Michigan. Caden Hauser, he's playing at Illinois. And Aiden Childs just transferred to Northwestern. I don't know if that's ever happened before, and they're all going to be playing at Spartan Stadium. But yeah, three former starting quarterbacks from Michigan State, all on the schedule this year at Spartan Stadium. Those are going to be some fun games because all three of those guys want to come in there and get a victory, especially Aiden Childs. You know he wants to get that victory. So when Northwestern comes to town, you may want to get your tickets early. That could be a very entertaining game. All right. That's it for now. By the time I see you again, there'll be a Big Ten team in the national title game, whether it's Indiana or Oregon. We'll break down that national title game. But until then, thanks for watching. Keep subscribing. You've been watching the 5 Star Zone.